Okay, that's me. All right. Hello, good morning, Kalimera. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this wonderful event. The marine insurance events, they don't tend to be very often in our part of the world. And it's always encouraging to be able, let's say, to discuss insurance matters, especially when all the stakeholders are around. So today I'm here with my capacity as, and if this was working, I hope it works. There you are. So today I'm with my capacity as the chairman of the Ocean Hull Committee of IUMI. I would like, let's say, to bring your attention what basically IUMI does and what is the role that it plays in the general context of marine and shipping, basically. So IUMI is a professional body, and it's run by its own members, which are 42 national associations, insurance associations. It represents national and international insurers and considers various issues of interest. Part of its mission is to provide timely and topical information on statistical and risk, let's say, assessment issues. Provides education, of course, because it's necessary, let's say, to attract more talent in our industry, and also insight and guidance. Additionally, it's a great place, let's say, to network between the insurers and exchange views. And usually when you exchange views, things are getting better and you find solution. And equally, we do an effective lobbying. Effective lobbying means that issues that are necessary and issues that are essential for the well-being of the insurance industry and of our stakeholders, which sometimes is our own clients, it's part of our duty, let's say, through the IMO or the Ajax, let's say, to continuously lobbying those issues. Despite the fact that I was born and bred in Greece, all my business, let's say, was always done in Cyprus. And I'm very proud of having done my business is done in Cyprus. Cyprus is a very good place, let's say, to do your business and a very friendly environment. As you will see, the constitution of the committee, as Cyprus now, the parties of the committee are countries with huge tradition in marine insurance. However, it's recognized the role of Cyprus, let's say, in the global frame as such. So on the current issues, which that's what we are here for, IUMI currently is working on the following issues, which is, first of all, is the Arctic sailing. It's something that is fairly remote from us, but it's something that is already, it requires some sort of regulation. We are working with IMO on that, and on the basis that this becomes a voluntary regulation within the next few years. Autonomous vessels are happening. We expect that at the end of this decade, more autonomous vessels to be around. This has certain issues that requires, again, a regulatory environment, a regulatory framework to be done. Issues like general average, issues like P&I and liabilities on an autonomous vessels are issues that concerns. And we are having a working group now with IMO and Ajax in order, let's say, to express, let's say, the regulatory framework. Cyber risk, of course. Cyber risk is something that is becoming an obligatory insurance for everyone. This is a risk, again, that requires a lot of regulation. As you will see, the whole actions that we will be discussing today is more and more regulations. So advancements are taking place quicker than the actual, let's say, regulation. The ESG issues, as you all are very well aware, the United Nations have actually paved the way with the principles for sustainable insurance. So all underwriters have to embed in their policies and in their practices ESG, environmental, social, and governance issues. We need to work together with our clients on these issues also. And we need together also with our regulators. And finally, we need to act in a transparent and an accountable way. Transparent and accountable way, the insurers have devised the Poseidon Principles for Marine Insurance in December 2021, whereas we report the carbon footprint of our portfolio, and we compare it against the trajectory for 2050, IMO's trajectory for 2050, and we are working together with our clients in order, let's say, to align towards these trajectories. Other issues of ESG is not just only the environment, it's also bribery and corruption, is the plastic litter, is the crew well-being, and which is something that we still focus on that. On fuels, we have the decarbonization. It's a topic that you all are very familiar with that. We cannot stop talking about that. What IUMI is doing currently is trying to agree that the refiners are also held responsible for the quality of bunkers. It's not just the owners or the charterers or the bunker providers. Also, the refiners have to have a stake of the responsibility of the quality of bunkers. Low pressure fuel systems. Now, the low pressure fuel systems are 1/3 of the engine fires come from leaking basically pipes close to hotspots within the engine rooms. This is something that we are currently working to mitigate. Port of refuge is, we are in a working group now with IMO. We need to improve, let's say, the ability of accommodating vessels which are under distress. Safety of container vessels, of course. The more that lithium-ion batteries are being carried as cargo, we have seen the devastation that they can create. Just one container being on fire can devastate a whole ship. Post-pandemic, we have seen a lot of incidents like this, and this is a work in progress within IUMI in order, let's say, to find ways to mitigate that particular loss. In addition, the higher the stacks on the container vessels, the higher the loss of containers at sea, which is another issue that we are working on currently. Finally, is the safety of Ro-Ro vessels. Ro-Ro vessels are, again, subject to severe fires, usually emanating from their cargo areas. So if we are talking about the lithium-ion batteries, if we consider that you have a Ro-Ro vessel full of hybrid cars full of batteries, you can imagine the devastation that this can create. So this is another topic that we are trying to work on. The problem, as it was mentioned in a previous discussion which I had, the problem is that nowadays technology is not dictating the pace of the changes. Is people demands that they dictate the changes. And that's why we see that we want something and then we demand from the technology to support it. So that's why we have this anomaly now on having lack of regulation on almost everything or insufficient regulation. At the end of the day, 80% of everything that goes on accidents is from humans. So the human element is something that we seriously need to focus about. If all these technologies are implemented, in 2050 we will require the double amount of seafarers that we currently have. That suggests that we have to start working now in order to produce a generation of seafarers which are very well educated and very well versed, and also to love this particular profession, because the problem is that the younger generation doesn't actually embrace this particular profession so much. On the post-pandemic position now, as far as hull underwriting is concerned, pandemic was a blessing in disguise. We didn't have much claims, we didn't have much movement of ships, so we didn't have many collisions, we didn't have many engine damages, which was very good. Of course, pandemic is over now, so everything is just start creeping up again. The good thing is that it's a similar number of claims that we're witnessing now from the post-pandemic, from 2019. However, claims are becoming more expensive. More expensive is due to the fact that we do have inflation. We're experiencing inflation. It was expected to have inflation post-pandemic. The thing is, though, that as things are progressing, inflation is not just hitting claims as such, it's hitting also our own operations. Therefore, this eventually will roll down to the clients, which is the ship owners, by paying a bit more premium for that. I know it's not very pleasant, but that's inflation, not us. On the war in Ukraine, people say that and which is true. I mean that war on the society, the insurance was not prepared for that. The funny thing is that on 21st of April 2021, the Lloyd's Market Association issued a circular warning everyone that this situation might escalate and might result to detainment of vessels. Nobody actually paid attention, and we tend not to pay attention because these things have happened again. It has happened in the Six-Day War, where again we had huge seizures of ships. But more recently, which is close to 40 years ago, it was the Iran-Iraq War, where we had, the moment the war broke up, we had close to 75 vessels being stranded, eventually being CTLs. CTL means constructive total loss, for those that are not aware of, and had an instant claim of close to $500 million. And with the subsequent losses, this reached close to $1 billion back in 40 years ago. Currently, all the CTL claims, all the stranded, the blocked and trapped vessels in the Black Sea has been sort of settled, or a couple of might not have been settled yet. The industry, even though it was late, eventually came good to its promise to compensate these unfortunate owners. And the only thing that remains unresolved is the cargo claims, which I think is going to take a bit longer. And I do not wish to discuss that now because I don't know what's going on. So now sanctions. Sanctions are, as it says the slide, extremely burdensome. Sanctions for underwriters, for some reason, lawmakers have decided to have sanctions, and for some reason has gone to our own shoulders, to the insurer's shoulders, to police that particular sanctions. So the moment we receive a ship to be quoted, we need to run a sanction check. The sanction check now involves more and more people working on the compliance department of every insurer. Eventually, once this is clear, which might take a day, might take two, sometimes takes hours, and the vessel is insured, they might have a claim. Again, we have to run a sanction check again in order to make the payment. So it's extremely burdensome for underwriters. It employs a lot of people. It's been very, very costly because in order to monitor all these ships, you need to buy rights on various databases that they actually oversee the movements of ships and their business dealings. So do we benefit out of sanctions? I don't think so. We don't actually benefit at all. The problem is that there are side effects of sanctions now, and this is the rogue states. We have seen a lot of rogue states coming out of that, which they harbor the dark fleet, as we call. I was trying, let's say, when I was preparing this presentation, I was trying to locate the exact number of the dark fleet. It ranges from 200 to 300 to 600 and the gray ones now, which is close to 2,000. So this is a risk it's happening. This is a real risk. It's a real risk for legitimate owners trying to trade legitimately. However, it was a couple of weeks ago that Pablo came as a confirmation that this is a real risk. Pablo was waiting for another vessel to do a ship-to-ship transfer of most probably Russian oil, whatever. Can you imagine what would have happened if this thing blew up with a fully laden tanker next to it? Unfortunately, we have 3 deaths already on this. And this, for those that are in the underwriting profession, you can understand this is a tanker without any cargo in it. That means that no inert. The tanks were not inerted, or the inert system wasn't working properly. If it had a half-decent classification society or a half-decent P&I or a half-decent hull underwriter, this would not have happened. These particular fleets are the prime source of income for underwriters we haven't heard before, classifications that we haven't heard before, and flags that they don't actually. This one is from Gabon. And And if you ask me where exactly Gabon is, I will tell you somewhere in Africa, but not necessarily. I wouldn't know if they had any shipping whatsoever. So if we continue to allow that, and I don't know how we're going to stop that, but I think that this is a product of sanctions. And if we do not address this particular risk, something worse will happen. This particular vessel now cannot be salvaged. No salvor is going to touch it because it's a sanctioned entity. So we can't be doing business with sanctioned entities. So as it looks, the Malaysian government is going to foot the bill at the end of the day. So the Malaysian taxpayers will pay for it. And because it's a remote place from where we live, it's okay. But if you can imagine, if this is happening in the Mediterranean basin, what would have happened? How many countries would be involved there? So I'm just putting it as a notice, and I'm telling you, thank you very much. That was my presentation. Thank you.